Okay, third time's a charm. Here is the third sketchbook in the Sketchbook Tour series. This is where I just flip through old sketchbooks and show you what I think about them today. Sometimes I come up with some cool ideas seeing some of this old stuff, so it can be helpful for me as well. This is number 3. The last 2 were Pentalic. This is a Moleskin. I don't really like Moleskin now, especially because these pages you'll see are really yellow. And they're kind of, I can't remember if these are the thin ones, but one of my sketchbooks has really thin paper. Anyways, let's just get into it. No stickers on the front. Oh, here's a hot chocolate sticker, I guess. This sketchbook ran from January 2014 to April 2014, so I filled this pretty quick. So about 3-4 months. Beginning of April, so really more like 3 months. As a reward, you will receive a unicorn. Here's a drawing of a unicorn. Oh, goody. Okay, so this a big shift from the last 2 sketchbooks is now I'm starting to use microns and pencil as opposed to ballpoint pens. So this is definitely interesting. I'm starting to do more comic art, actually. Working on some compositions. This is actually kind of interesting. I don't remember what this is for. Oh, well, I said Robin Hood is a samurai, so I guess that's what I'm thinking through. Kind of thumbnailing some stuff out. Chameleons. Okay, so here's some more of the chimeras. This is a snake horse, I guess, a cobra horse. Pretty cool. Varying some line weight here and there. A monkey cow, I remember that one. This was a professor that taught me, what was the class? Design 1, I think. Again, I'm still drawing this line because I think it should be there, but I don't actually know how to use it right. I'm really excited to see if there's a specific drawing that I can look at and go, I figured out the sternocleidomastoid. I know how to use it now. I'm going to be really interesting to see that. So I'm doing this thing where I'm like doing some of my rendering with pencil and some of it with hatching. But all my hatching is like flattening out the figure a lot. Okay, working on some interesting compositions. I don't hate this composition. It's fairly boring, but we've got some depth, which is something kind of new. Oh, fun. This is Vein Man from Yo-Yo Boy. One of my first comics that I ever made. We never actually got to, my brother was writing it. We never actually got to the point of introducing this character, like, on the page. I only ever did concept art. You saw some concept art in previous sketchbooks. Anyway, some more Vein Man. Figuring out his look. Drawing of an eye, of course, because that's how you learn. This eye is good in some respects and pretty bad in others. Like the actual rendering of the pupil and iris, the highlight, that's actually not terrible. The lid doesn't feel like it's wrapping around the form though. And like all of these lines, like I don't really, there's no like rhyme or reason. This eyebrow's all messed up shape-wise. It's too consistent, the thickness. It should taper, the hair should change direction a little bit more. Cool little creature. I assume I'm still drawing aliens or monsters for people. Another cool hand. I remember drawing this hand and liking this hand. That like the vein kind of wraps up under his finger and then his nails work like hypodermic needles. I remember that. Oh, cool. So what does it say about him? He doesn't have a digestive tract, lives off people's life force by sucking out their blood and storing it in axial skeleton, making spine and ribs large. That's pretty metal. Okay. I actually love that idea. I might really... This is really inspiring me to get back to Yo-Yo Boy at some point. Should be fun. This is interesting. The body has some nice volume to it. The face is very flat, though. I think it's mostly the eye and mouth. The horns, they have some cross contours that are giving it some volume, but just overall, that face is incredibly flat. This is, it's kind of a weak attempt, honestly, at a chimera. It really does look like just half and half. But, that said, I think I'm getting some really cool textures and kind of getting the depth of the character, especially here with like the rat cat, like this foot back here. Like we should also see the leg, like the knee kind of sticking out, but there's some good, and like the shadow going under it as opposed to just, you know, this shadow doesn't quite make sense, but okay. Look at how yellow this paper is. This is, this is white. That's ridiculous. It is super yellow. And I remember it was this color when I was drawing on it. I think it was. Maybe it has just yellowed over the years. Okay, this was for design class. I remember this. We had to like make various lines and then sort of extrapolate them. So this is well, we had to just play with different lines. It was projects like this that I think actually really helped me as an artist, because someone says draw 10 different sets of lines and you go, okay. And then someone says draw 50 different sets of lines and you're like, what's the point of this? Like, what are we doing? But it really stretches, and it can really push you to make, to really think outside the box and think of different things. Like here, I even just did some stippling. But I remember this class being really helpful for me to learn to do other types of lines and stuff. This was I was planning out a project for 3D design where I was making, oh man, there's some cool stuff here. I remember this. I might still do this. Shoot, that's really smart, actually. This was a 3D sculpture made of paper, and I wanted to make it a tornado. And I was trying to figure out this wire structure to put inside so that it could stand up on a point. A rhino, porcupine. Interesting. Again, the volume, this one's actually really good. I like this one a lot. The volume and like structure of this, like this feels like a round thing. Well, more squared off, but it feels like it has depth to it. Just like these two lines right here under the mane, and then the front, like I'm feeling the plane shifts in this. This is actually that's a pretty big step forward. The hatching is still really flat. On this one, the hatching, it starts to follow the contour. It starts to wrap a little bit. This one's pretty good too. These hooves are wrong. That's not how hooves work. That's not how they look, I should say. The proportions of this are kind of bizarre. See, I can tell that I was in my design class this contour line, this like jagged fluffy line compared to this line. Like compared to this contour compared to the skin, I'm starting to actually fiddle with that line variation. If I were to do this today, this back leg, I would just black that out because there's no point in seeing that right here. Over here, kind of the same thing, like the tail, I'd black it out at least to here. And you can see see all the shading that I'm doing with the pencil. I'm just nervous to do it with the ink yet. Okay, so after we did line, Then we did a shape inventory. So here's a bunch of shapes that I've drawn. I think what we had to do, yeah, okay, so we took these. I picked some, so which ones did I pick? I guess I picked the, did I pick the, yeah, I picked the ones circled in red, I think. Man, this is cool. And then you had to like take the shapes and kind of like evolve them. So in each additional block, whatever the starting shapes were, they would become more complex. Pretty cool. I like this progression here too. This is very organic. I like that a lot. I think we might have had to have like different types, like rectangular, curve, also, so all these classes, this was before I went to SCAD, these were all just at community college. Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Andrew Loomis. This is the first time I write down his name. I spell it wrong. But I write down Andrew Loomis, and I need to, I make a note that I need to go look into him. Oh, that's so cool. Andrew Loomis is an amazing artist. Wrote a lot of really good books about drawing and stuff. So, anyways, this is the design for my final 3D design paper project. This is ultimately what it ended up looking like, so this is pretty cool to see. Some more creature designs. This one's kind of cool. A lizard phoenix, I think. Pretty much the way that I would do this. No, you know what? I think this paper was whiter. There's areas where it's white from like being erased. I think this has just yellowed horribly. Kind of tells you about the quality of moleskin paper. You can see that it's kind of white in the seam as well. It just yellows like the dickens. And this hasn't even been 10 years. This has been 9 years. Lord of the Rings. I guess I was working on drawing of the Fellowship. Here's an int. Oops, sorry, I'm almost out of frame. Forgot. I like this one because I'm trying to draw it from a different perspective. Like I'm thinking about it a little bit differently, which is nice. It's not all that successful, but it is interesting. Some combinations are more interesting than others. This has got some nice volume with the ones behind. That's cool. Okay, okay, so this design project, we were supposed to, man, this is a fun sketchbook. We were supposed to design, like, with shape and line and texture and whatever, different textures and swatches that go with different emotions. So this is my whimsical category. This is joy, anger, fear, power, and love. So pretty sure I ended up going with this one for whimsical, even though I do like that one a lot. Joy, I think this one. Anger, I'm pretty darn sure it's that one. Fear, I went with this, but that is still pretty darn cool. It's so membraney. I think this is, I was kind of playing with the idea of like sinking, like down into a cavern. Power, I mean, this is just cool. It's like vibrating. Then love, I think I actually combined these two because I remember that they were dots in my final love one. You know, this is pretty cool. This, you know, I really like this because I'm starting to spot my blacks. That's a phrase you'll hear in comics, in comic art specifically. And it's just filling in an area with black. This is a really good drawing. The proportions are kind of weird for creature design, but I like that I'm taking a chance there. I remember working on this one and not being able to figure it out. That's why the tail looks all, or like the back end looks all wonky. In the end, I guess I'm like okay with it, but flamingo. I have a thing with flamingos apparently. Goat flamingo. Pig kangaroo. Oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. This was a drawing I did for a girlfriend at the time. It was kind of creepy. Selfie. Yeah, I'd always wear a beanie and this one jacket. I was starting to grow some fuzz on my face. Some more chimeras. I did a lot of these. This one's not bad. That's kind of cool. A bearded dragon rhino. Oh, so I never finished that thought earlier. What I would do when I needed, you know, I would just write down a new one, and I just turn to the person next to me and be like, hey, name 2 animals, and I'll put them together. So I just sort of had a running list, and I'd share it with people. This is a pretty good face. This has some nice structure. What I think is the thing I'm doing here that's really nice is I'm like covering up that side of the face with the nose. Like I'm not afraid to cover it up. I like these wrinkles in the back of the head too. That's cool. Interesting venom. There's no volume to it. There should be a second half to the head. This is very flat. I don't like that actually at all. Okay, cool. I see what I'm doing here. I was designing like posters for the different Watchmen. So this is Dr. Manhattan, Rorschach, Silk Spectre, Ozymandias, Owlman, and then the Comedian. That's actually pretty cool. I might actually finish that project. That's pretty interesting. I mean, somewhat. Oh, cool, a heart. It's not at all morbid. I remember doing this one. This one was fun. Pretty loose. Those hooves are pretty nice. Cool, more chimeras. Some nice structure to that. Okay, I'm starting to do like some posing. Oh, a walrus shark. This doesn't quite feel as much like blubber as it does like, I don't know, it feels too crinkly, this texture. It's pretty cool, I guess. Oh, you know what? This was Shark Week. For Shark Week, I did a bunch of shark-themed chimeras. Another selfie. I remember thinking this was a perfect likeness. The anatomy is real messed up, and it doesn't really look that much like me. I have had sort of the faux hawk for most of my life. So pretty much if I drew a figure and threw a faux hawk on, I was like, it looks like me. This is a turtle shark. I've always really loved Hellboy. This is actually a fairly decent drawing of him. I'm not a huge fan though. More poster ideas. I was in a Photoshop class at the time. So these were Toy Story posters, I guess. I started doing a like annual Leprechaun drawing for St. Patrick's Day. This is actually pretty good. I like that I've got several different values in here. Some of the shading, this feels kind of like tattoo shading, and no knock on tattoos, but there's, you know, that it kind of has that style where just like at the edges, it just kind of comes around, but there's not really a reason for it. Like everything has the same shading. His hair has this, the hat has this, the nose has this, like there's no distinction between the texture, between the, materials, whether that be hair, skin, or fabric, or leaf. All the rendering is just the same parallel hatching. Groot. I think this is a Yo-Yo Boy character, though. I can't remember. Hey, Mike, guess what day it is? Hump Day! This is pretty nice, though. I'm, like, varying my line weight. Like, although, you know, I'm pretty darn sure that... Hang on. I can't tell if I'm using a brush tip or if I'm just like using a micron several times. I remember being proud of this. It's a fine drawing. There's still that halo around the face. I should have just taken that black edge all the way in. Because I do it down here. See, it works down here, but up here, for some reason, I have a halo. Bookmarks. I was designing bookmarks on, these, like, cardboard strips that I have. I forget why I had the strips, but it was these perfect thin strips of cardboard that then I would draw on. That was one of the things I did at conventions, like, my first time. Oh, my goodness. I think I did them for $10. I would draw, like, a custom one for $10. Pretty crazy. A drawing of me with my sketchbook. I wore fingerless gloves at the time. I was super cool. We watched a documentary on color, and this was a drawing of the guy, like the narrator of the documentary. I had some spare paint in design class, so I just put it on in my sketchbook. I like these characters. This is fun. These little chickens. Stop wiggling. And then here's toothpaste. Like, yeah, this was fun. Some more creatures. This is mostly a Chimera book, turns out. It's kind of interesting. I like that I'm doing a different pose. This part of the body's going this way, and this part's going this way, so it's kind of... He's got a twisted body in between. This is fun. Little samurai character. Okay. I'm starting to have fun, I guess. Cool. Very cool. I'm using the graphite to give a mid-tone to the shirt, which I'm not opposed to. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but, like, I could do that with pen, so why don't I do that? And then it's permanent. It's not going to smudge like this has. Again, there's still that same shading that's being applied to all the different materials. The shading's very flat. So, like, in here, like, it kind of flattens that out. It doesn't feel volumetric. Left brain versus right brain. Seen a couple of illustrations like that, so I guess I want to do one. This was concepts for my 3D design. Oh, I think initially, okay, in my 3D design class, we were going to sculpt something out of plaster. And I think this is what I was thinking of doing for a second. That would have been nuts. I'm glad I didn't do that. Actually, you know, I think I could have pulled that off. I would have liked to try that. I was also thinking of an eye. I landed on doing this Batman figurine, though. It's a lot of fun. And the last drawing in here is Shrek. You know what's funny? I think Shrek ends up being the last drawing in a couple sketchbooks. I think it was like this silly little joke that I started doing with myself where I was like, oh, it's the last page. I'll draw Shrek again. So I think we'll see Shrek again in a future one. Let's see if there's anything in the... Nope. Empty pocket. That was pretty quick. That was volume 3. So I think I learned a lot about inking with microns in this, especially since I moved from ballpoints to microns. That was probably the biggest thing that I learned during this time. I filled it pretty quick. I did a lot of creature designs, so I'm excited to see what I do in the next one. I mean, you know, it's been like 9 years. So. Anyways, toodaloo!